Now, it may be difficult to see this blackboard. Hopefully in the future we can do something about that. But this is what we have for now. So and you guys can practice with me as well. You have paper now, you have pencil, so you can write with me if you like. But we had our first letter was the letter Aleph. And Aleph we made like that. We go from right to left, basically like this. Everybody good? Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. Okay? Let's say that again. Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. What does Aleph sound like? It's silent. That's why we didn't fill in anything. The Aleph doesn't have a sound. It is a vowel carrier. So whatever the vowel sound that will accompany the Aleph, that's the sound the Aleph will make. Everybody good? Yeah. Okay. Our second letter is the letter Beit. This is how we make the Beit with our dot. Good. Beit sounds like B in boy. So let's say it. Beit sounds like B in boy. Beit sounds like B in boy. Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. Our third letter was the letter Gimel. And you remember we made it like this? Everybody good? Yes. Sits on the line, comes down. You can make some of those. Gimel sounds like get in girl. Gimel sounds like get in girl. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. Our fourth letter is the letter Doid. Remember, it too sits on the line. It's like a T, but then it has a little end here. What's that end called? It's the tittle, right? And it's the smallest stroke of a letter when Yeshua said, not one jot or tittle shall pass from the law till all be fulfilled. He was talking about these little marks that distinguish letters. We'll see how it distinguishes the Beit from another letter in a moment. So we have the letter Doid. It sits on the line. It's like a T, but it's off-centered. Doid sounds like di in door. Doid sounds like di in door. Gimel sounds like get in girl. Gimel sounds like get in girl. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. Our fifth letter is the letter Hey. It has the three sides, and then it doesn't attach over here. So you start at the left, come down, and you make like an upside down L, and then a little mark. So that's the letter Hey. Sits on the line. Hey sounds like ha in hey. Hey sounds like ha in hey. One more time. Hey sounds like ha in hey. Doid sounds like dit in door. Doid sounds like dit in door. Gimel sounds like get in girl. Gimel sounds like get in girl. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. So these are our first 5 letters. So when I point to them, you make the sound, okay?
Good. Good. But.
Silent.
Good. Good. But. Good. Good.
Okay, great. Everybody getting this? Yes. What we're after is the names are fine, but they're not essential. You really want the sound because you want to read. And when we read, we just need to know the sounds the letter shapes are indicating. That's basically what we're doing. These are symbols that tell us the kind of sound that ought to be made. Okay, so those are our first 5 letters. So we're about 1/4 of the way there. So our 6th letter is the letter Vav. Little thing like that. It sits on the line. Little thing, little thing, little thing, sits on the line. Vav sounds like vi in void. Vav sounds like vit in void. So let's start from the beginning. Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Hey sounds like ha in hey. Hey sounds like ha in hey. Vav sounds like vi in void. Vav sounds like vi in void. Okay? Our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seventh letter is the letter Zion. Not to be confused with the Vav. The Zion has a slant and then sits on the line. Not to be confused with the Dalid, which is straight. Not to be confused with the Vav, which doesn't have a tittle. This one has a tittle to distinguish the Zion from the Vav. Everybody good? Yeah. Sits on the line. Zion. That may not be good. That's better. Zion. Zion. Zion sounds like z in zoo. Zion sounds like z in zoo. Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Hey sounds like ha in hay. Hey sounds like ha in hay. Vav sounds like vi in void. Vav sounds like vi in void. Zion sounds like zi in zoo. Zion sounds like zi in zoo. Okay, our eighth letter is the letter chet. So like the hay, we make the three, oops, that's really terrible. Like the hay, we make the three sides. Unlike the hay, we connect it, but we have a little tittle on the end. So we come down, little tittle here. It sits on the line. Everybody good? Okay? So the chet is like the hay, but we're connected and we have a tittle. So chet sounds like ach in ach, bach. Chet sounds like ach in bach. Okay? Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Hey sounds like ha in hay. Hey sounds like ha in hay. Vav sounds like v in void. Vav sounds like vit in void. Zion sounds like zit in zoo. Zion sounds like zit in zoo. Chet sounds like ach in bach. Chet sounds like ach in bach. Our ninth letter is the letter tet. We make the tet, it sits on the line, and we come around something like that. It's almost like a G without the line coming across. So we come down and we come up, down and up, down and up. So that's the tet. Tet sounds like t in top. Tet sounds like t in top. Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Hey sounds like ha in hay. Hey sounds like ha in hay. Vav sounds like vit in void. Vav sounds like vit in void. Zion sounds like zit in zoo. Zion sounds like zit in zoo. Chet sounds like ach in bach. Chet sounds like ach in bach. Tet sounds like tit in top. Tet sounds like tit in top. Now our 10th letter is the letter yod. This is our first letter that doesn't sit on the line, but it hangs on the line. So it's like a little corner. Little corner. And that's the yod. So when Jesus said, not one jot, that's the letter yod he's referring to, or tittle, the smallest stroke of a letter. So he's saying everything's going to be fulfilled down to the smallest letter and the smallest stroke of a letter in the Bible. That is also a strong statement on the inspiration of the Word of God. The only way the smallest letter, smallest stroke of a letter can have its fulfillment is if it's inspired by God. If it's not, then there's no guarantee any of it can be fulfilled. So it's a strong statement about what does inspiration mean. It means that the very words, the very letters that make up a word are all God-breathed and have been given to us by the grace and revelatory power and nature of God. So Yod sounds like Yeh in yard. Yod sounds like Yeh in yard. Okay, let's start one more time. These are our 10 letters. There's only like 22, so we're halfway there. Aleph sounds like in. Aleph sounds like in. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Beit sounds like bit in boy. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Gimel sounds like git in girl. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Dalid sounds like dit in door. Hey sounds like ha in hay. Hey sounds like ha in hay. Vav sounds like vit in void. Vav sounds like vit in void. Zion sounds like zit in zoo. Zion sounds like zit in zoo. Chet sounds like ach in bach. Chet sounds like ach in bach. Tet sounds like tit in top. Tet sounds like tit in top. Yod sounds like yit in yarn. Yod sounds like yit in yard. Okay, so let me point to some of these letters. You just make the sound. Okay? Ready? Okay, so some of you are good, some of you are not so good. So let's try it again. You ready? Well, the sound is, right? Okay, so that's what we got to get at. We got to be able to go Beadkat. You got to be able to get there in order to read nicely, right? It's like anything else. We're learning. I mean, we all know the sounds. We're just putting the sounds to new forms, right? To new styles, new shapes, new letters. Letters are just shapes. Okay, so we've got 10. So let's move on. And our 11th letter, so I'm going to start this here, okay? Our 11th letter is the letter Kaf. The letter Kaf is like a backward C. It sits on the line, so it's a C with a dot. Dot, 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 dot. Kaf is the word here, the letter Kaf. And let me just make sure so I have it. I think I have cough or something. Let me see. Oh, cool. Okay, cool. Fine. Kaf sounds like k in cool. 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 Now, when it doesn't have the dot in it, it's like the chet, but backwards. So the chet is cha. The kaf without the dot is just the opposite. Instead of it being cha, it's, you got to give it k sound, it's ka. So instead of cha, it's cha. So it's like a subtle cha, but not a hard cha. It's a soft cha. You know, cha. That's what you're sort of doing. But it's kind of fluid. Cha, cha, cha. It's not hard like ha, ha. Like when we say the Hebrew word for spirit is the word ruach. It's hard. Ruach. It's not ruah. It's ruach. We'll get into some of the vowels with that. If it was with a kaf, it would be rucha, 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 you know. Or like the Can't think of a word. Let me see if I can pick one out quickly. Oh, you know what? I know where I could do. Hold on. Let's see if I have something right here I can pick up real quick. Okay, so like the word for throne is the word kisei. So it's pronounced kisei. But you don't have to go crazy. If it has a dot, it's simply kisei. If it's otherwise, it's going to be a little ka. It's a little softer. Okay? But listen, we don't have to get technical. We want to learn to read. We don't have to get bogged down in these subtleties. As we read, we'll get more familiar with it. So for now, we just want to know kaf sounds like k in cool. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Okay? So our next letter is the letter Lamid. And by the way, let me share one other thing. So sometimes the kaf can appear without a dot, right? And we said that. When the kaf appears at the end of a word, it's going to be like the dalid, but the stem hangs below the line. So if we have our line, it's going to be like a dalid, but it's going to hang below the line. So that's how it can look. As we start reading it, you'll say, what is that? And I'll say, oh, that's the final kaf. And you'll say, oh, that's right. That's the one that hangs below the line. So these are three ways this one letter can look when we're reading a given text. Everybody good? I only want you to know the name. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Our next letter is the letter Lamid. And Lamid is like our letter L. Now, the next three letters are really good because they're just like in English. L, M, and N. O, M, N. Right? So the Lamid sounds like ol in ladder. Lamid sounds like ol in ladder. And the way you make the Lamid, sits on the line, is you have a line comes down, and then you make like a kaf. Line comes down, a kaf, and then you can bring a... I'm not too good at this. Oh, that's not a bad one. That's pretty good. Line, kaf, that's terrible. But anyway, okay? So if you look on the pages I gave you, you can see how he makes it on the top of page 29. His top is shorter than mine. I don't like that. He does it like that. I don't go for that. But, I do it like that. That's basically what happens when I'm writing. The important thing is that when you see it, you recognize it, right? So make a bunch of lamids, and as you're making them, say, lamid sounds like ol and ladder. Lamid sounds like ol and ladder. Lamid sounds like ol and ladder. Lamid sound, keep saying it, ol and ladder. Lamid sounds like ol and ladder. Those are coming out pretty good. Lamid sounds like ol in ladder. Lamid sounds like ol in ladder. Everybody good? Okay. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Lamid sounds like ol in ladder. Lamid sounds like ol in ladder. Our next letter is the letter mem. Mem sounds like in more. Mem sounds like in more. Now, the way the mem is made is basically you're going to start, let's see. I make this different. No, that's no good. Let me see how he's got it. Okay, so he does it this way. It's almost like Hershey's Kisses, but that's because that's a terrible one. But so you got like this curve. You have like this stem that comes down, and then you have this comes out here, and then it joins it. That's probably a better one, but that's a terrible one. But that's what you're trying to come up with. Maybe that's why I make it different. It comes down like that, and it's almost like a triangle with a thing on it. The thing is, you have to recognize it, remember, and you can see how he makes it. I think he does it like this, and then he comes in like that. That's not a bad one. It sits on the line.
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
What if it looks like a mailbox, and then with a chimney out there?
Whatever helps you is fine. Okay? So if it sits on the line, he does it this way. Now remember, this is how you're writing it, but what we have to do is recognize it. Now, the mem can appear two ways. In the middle of a sentence or word, it will appear like this, but at the end of a word, it will be boxed and closed with a little tail on it. So when it's at the end of a word, it's going to look like that. Sits on the line. Everybody good? Okay? So these two are mems. These three are kafs. And that's just me doing the thing, but that's just the Lamid. Everybody good? So let's say this together. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Mem sounds like in more. Men sounds like in more. So just like in English, L-M-N. Lamid, Mem, Nun. Those are the names of it. They go in order. Now the Nun is the next letter. It too sits on the line. It's like a backwards L. So it sits on the line and it comes in like that. That's the Nun. When it appears at the end of a word, it will look like the Vav, except it'll go below the line. So when it's at the end of a word, it will go below the line. On the line, it's like an L. At the end of the word, it's like a Vav that goes below the line. Okay? You can see how he makes it on, I think it's page 29. So the Nun sounds like in Nun. Nun sounds like in Nun. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Mem sounds like in more. Mem sounds like in more. Nun sounds like in none. Nun sounds like in none. Okay, everybody good? So just give me the names of the letters when I point to them, okay? Okay, now let's just do the sounds. Ul. Okay, everybody sort of getting this? We're sort of getting there? Okay, our next letter is the letter Somic. It's like an S sound. If you look on page 29, he shows how he makes it. I make it similarly. It sits on the line. It's like it is an O, but it has a little tittle on it. So you come around and boom. Come around, connect it, and keep a little end on there. That's no good. You should connect. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay. Somic sounds like in song. 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 Kaf sounds like k in cool. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Mem sounds like in more. Mem sounds like in more. Nun sounds like in none. Nun sounds like in none. Somic sounds like in song. Somic sounds like in song. Okay? Following the Somic is the letter ayin. This is another one of those deeply guttural ones that we generally don't say, and a lot of Israelis don't really say it either. Arabs do, because they get that real strong guttural kind of thing that happens. But the ayin sits on the line, and it's like this. It's like, boom, it does one of these kind of things. Oh, you know what? That's the script, isn't it? That's because that's the way I do these things. Hold on, forget that one, forget that. Let me see. It's like a Y that sits on the line, right? And that's how he has it. Okay, so what we're doing is we're going this way, and we sit it on the line. Y, sort of like that.
It sits above the line?
It sits on the line. So it's the letter ayin. So what we say with this is ayin sounds like ayin. Ayin sounds like ayin. It's basically going to act just like an aleph. It's going to be the vowel carrier because we can't say those things. We don't say like I, which is what it would be, like einayim. We don't say that. We just say einayim. So basically the ayin is going to act like the aleph in terms of its sound. Now, something you just need to realize is that when you learn vocabulary, it spells a different word. Even though we read it similarly, it provides us with a different word. It's not unlike in English. We have a word like this, right? And we can read that either as read or as read. But we can also read like that, and that's read too. So the fact that different letters make up different words, though they may sound similarly or differently, is not the point. You just need to be able to read what's here. When we start learning vocabulary, you'll say, oh, this word sounds just like another word, but because it's spelled with a different letter, it means something different. Does that make sense? Okay, it's just as an illustration. So ayin, Cff, Lamid, Meem, Nun, Somic, ayin, and then we have the letter pei. So I'm going to erase this side for now, okay? And the letter pei sits on the line. There are three ways that the letter pei can appear, much like the letter Cff. It can appear with a dot, and that's how you make it. You just sort of come around like that. Up, down, with a dot. So that's like the letter pei. I guess it goes in there. Sometimes you'll see it without the dot, just like the Cff. And when it appears at the end of a word, just like the Cff, it's on the line. When it appears at the end of a word, it'll come below the line. Okay? So this is an easy letter to recognize because it's got that curly Q kind of a look to it. Pei sounds like P in put. When it doesn't have a dot, it's soft, so it sounds like V in phone, which means it's just like the letter bait without the dot in it. Both have a V-type sound. But just like we say the word void, spelt with a V, but the word phone is spelt with a PH. That's a similar thing that happens here. This is more like a V. This is more like a PH kind of transliterated vocalization. So pei sounds like P in put. Pei sounds like P in put. So just like we don't say Vav bait without the dot sounds like vit in void. We're not going to have, pei without the dot sounds like phone. You just need to remember that. But you need to know pei sounds like P in put, pei sounds like P in put, pei sounds like P in put. Okay? So we have Cff sounds like K in cool, Cff sounds like K in cool, Lamid sounds like ul in ladder, Lamid sounds like ul in ladder, Mem sounds like in more, Mem sounds like in more, Nun sounds like in none, Nun sounds like in none, Somic sounds like in song, Somic sounds like in song, Ayin sounds like ayin, Ayin sounds like iron. Pay sounds like p in put. Pay sounds like p in put. Good? Okay, we're coming to the end. Our next letter is the letter Sadi. This too sits on the line. The way to make a Sadi is like you're going to make an S, but you don't do the top part of the S. So you come and then you put a little thing. So almost like you're going to do an S, but you start the S later, and then you put a line. So you go like that. That's a pretty good one. You know, an S would be like this, right? Well, you're starting your S like over here, say. And then you're putting a little line. So Sadi sounds like tsa, it's like TZ, tsa, like in let's. L-E-T-S. It's a T-Z sound. Sadi sounds like ts in let's. Sadi sounds like ts in let's. So we have a man by the name of Melchizedek. His name has a tzaddik in it, or tzadi in it, right? Melchizedek. We just say Melchizedek. And now you're going to realize the English way that you see the names in the Bible are not the way they're pronounced actually. They're really pronounced differently. Like you'll read Abraham, but it's not Abraham, it's Avraham. And similarly, you'll see Melchizedek is not Melchizedek, it's Melchizedek. Melchizedek. So the word for righteousness is tzedakah, or a righteous one is tzaddik, a tzaddik. So it's TZ, it's a tzadi. So tzadi sounds like ts in let's. Sadi sounds like ts in let's. Now, the Sadi can also appear differently at the end of a word. So when it's at the end of the word, you have, you have this little tail comes down, and then it's like a Y. So it's like that. It'll drop out at the end of the word. You'll see it, but it's still at Sadi, okay? So if you look on page 29, I think he has a page 30. He has how he does it. And that's what he does. He has the line. He starts you off this way and then adds a little tail. Something like that. Sadi. Sadi sounds like ts in let's. Sadi sounds like ts in let's. So let's start from the beginning. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Kaf sounds like ka in cool. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Mem sounds like in more. Mem sounds like in more. Nun sounds like in none. Nun sounds like in none. Somic sounds like s in song. Somic sounds like sit in song. Iron sounds like iron. Iron sounds like iron. Pay sounds like p in put. Pay sounds like p in put. Sadi sounds like ts in let's. Sadi sounds like ts in let's. Okay? Our next letter is the letter kof. Sounds like the letter kaf. It's a K sound as well, but it's shown differently. It goes down below the line. So you have a little C and then below the line. Little C. It doesn't have to be a complete C. That's a pretty good one. So it's like the C is above the line, backwards C. That's pretty good. Almost a C, but not quite. And then a line that goes below the line. This is the kof, not to be confused with the kaf. Kof sounds like k in cough. 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 Okay? Following the kof is the letter resh. Sits on the line. It's simply a bent line. And that's the letter resh. Resh is like the letter R. Resh sounds like in run. 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 And then following the resh, we have the Sheen and the Sheen. These are they look exactly alike except for the dot. So the way we can make this is it sits on the line. You make like a little bow or a U, and then you put a line on the angle. For a Sheen, you put a dot on the left. So Sheen sounds like in sing, or sin, sin. Sheen sounds like in sin. Sheen sounds like in sin. When the dot is on the right side, it's sh, like in shine. Sheen sounds like sh in shine. Sheen sounds like sh in shine. Sheen sounds like sh in shine. Okay? The Sheen and the Sheen. Sometimes we just call it a shin. So we have the name Yeshua. So what letters do you think are in Yeshua? Yeshua. Yud. Okay, we need the Yod. I'll put it over here. Yeshua. Sheen, we need that. Okay, then we need a vowel, an U vowel. We haven't learned that. I'll just put it here for a moment. And then we have Yeshua. So that letter's a silent letter. We have two possibilities, right? One is the Aleph, and the other is the Ayin. It happens to be the Ayin, and that's Yeshua's name. Okay? So there you're already reading Hebrew, and you don't even know a vowel. Right? So Yeshua. Okay? Yes, last week I gave you an ah vowel. I said this under a word or that is an ah. So we would have the ah over here. And you never learned what the I is, but the I is two dots. So that's how we would spell Yeshua's name with vowels. If we didn't have vowels, we would still have the vav in there, and that's the Masorite. You mentioned this, John. That was the Masorite signal that an U vowel would be needed. The dot isn't there, but the consonant is there in the original Hebrew text. So when the Masorites came to it, they recognized often when you had the vav after certain letters that the U would be sounded. So what they did was they took the letter and they made it into a vowel by simply adding a dot. Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment when we learn the vowels. It's considered a compound vowel pointing. But it's basically a consonant. And when those consonants appeared, the Masorites said, this is almost all the time an U. So let's signal to everybody this isn't part of the word. That consonant was really not a part of the word. It was actually a vowel in its ancient form. And we'll talk more about that as we learn these things. But I just want you to see, you can read, this is not a hard language to learn to read. Right now you're thinking, oh man, this is crazy. In fact, it looks like, somebody schizophrenic that's writing all this stuff. And you may be right. But the thing is that it's not all that complicated. So you have to take it in points at a time, a little, a lot. Review this stuff a lot of times, but a little bit at a time. And you'll see that it will begin to make sense. Once we start learning words, and you start reading a word, and then you memorize that word, you'll read better, and you'll understand more. And so it comes together in this fashion. Okay, so our last letter is the letter Tuf. And the letter Tuf comes sometimes with a dot and without, but it's always pronounced the same way, T. So it sits on the line, just like the Hey and the Het. You've got that box. The Het has a tittle that comes out. You don't have that. The Hey has a space, so we're a lot like the Het. Everybody good? But we add a foot that comes out. So you go down, attach it, and then you put a foot. Down, attach it, you put a foot. So you got the thing, foot, thing, foot. So we come down, and boom, a little foot. Often there's a dot in it, but not all the time. And so Tuf sounds like T in toy, which also sounds a lot like the letter Tet, right? That too has a T sound. So let me erase this, and we'll go through the alphabet, and I'll put them here. And now you have all the letters. So we spent no more than an hour and 45 minutes last week and this week to learn the alphabet. So now next week we'll learn the vowels, and then you read. That's it. And the syllables. Remember I said you had to, but we already learned the syllables. Open syllable. What's an open syllable? An open syllable. Consonant vowel is an open syllable. Consonant vowel, consonant is closed. So once we know the consonant, the syllables, you know how to pronounce the word as it ought to be pronounced. Once you know the consonants and the vowels, you can pronounce it. So we're now like 2/3 of the way. All we got is the vowels. So let me erase this. We're going to go through our consonants one more time. Okay? So our first letter is the letter, and it sounds like, okay? So now what I want you to try to do is not look at your stuff, okay? Try not to look at, you don't have to close it, but, we're adults here. You better close it. We're just doing our best. No grades yet. No grades yet, Okay, so here we go. Our first letter is the letter, and it sounds like silent, right? Okay, our second letter. And how does it look? Okay, can look like that. Bait sounds like in. Bait sounds like. Our third letter? Gimel, right? Gimel sounds like in girl. Gimel sounds like get in girl. Our fourth letter is the letter Dalet. Okay? Letter Dalet. Dalet sounds like di in door. Dalet sounds like di in door. Our fifth letter is the letter Hey. Hey sounds like ha in hey. Hey sounds like ha and hey. Now sometimes you're going to see the letter Dalet with a dot. Okay? Doesn't really mean anything, but a lot of times it is introduced into the word. Don't let it confuse you, but you'll see it sometimes. Also, the Gimel sometimes will appear with a dot. Okay? Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. Our sixth letter is Vav. Vav sounds like Vi in void. Vav sounds like Vi in void. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav. Zion. Zion sounds like in zoo. Zion sounds like zi in zoo. Am I right? Het. Het. Oops. Het. We come like that with a little tittle. Het sounds like ach and bach. Het sounds like ach and bach. Then we have our letter tet. Tet sounds like t in top, toy. Tet sounds like t in toy. And then our 10th letter yod. Yod sounds like yit in yard. Yod sounds like yit in yard. Then we have the letter kaf, which can appear with a dot, sometimes without the dot, and at the end of a word goes below the line. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Kaf sounds like k in cool. Then we have the letter Lamid. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Lamid sounds like ul in ladder. Then we have the letter Mem, and sometimes it appears at the end of a word, closed, not to be confused with the chet, which is not closed at the bottom. Mem sounds like in more. Mem sounds like in more. Then we have the letter Nun, and at the end of a word, like the Vav, but below the line, so not to be confused with it, but easily sometimes. Nun sounds like in none. Nun sounds like in none. Mem, Nun. Somic. Somic sounds like in song. Somic sounds like in song. Kaf, Lam, Mem, Nun, Sion. Iron. Is it iron? It's interesting how I get these confused sometimes. Somic, iron, that's correct. Iron sounds like iron. Iron sounds like iron. And we pull it down like that. Somic sounds like, iron sounds like iron. Iron sounds like iron. Then we have the pay, sometimes with a dot. Pay sounds like p in put. Pay sounds like p in put. Sometimes it will not have a dot. Then it sounds like v in phone, v in phone. And sometimes it'll appear at the end with a tail that goes below the line. Everybody good? Pay. Then we have the letter Sadi. Remember, we make it like an S. Sadi sounds like s in let's. Sadi sounds like s in let's. And at the end of a word, it'll come below the line. Sadi sounds like s in let's. Sadi sounds like s in let's. Then we have the letter Kof. Kof sounds like k in cough. Kof sounds like k in cough. And then we have the letter Resh. Resh sounds like in run. Resh sounds like in run. Then we have the the Sheen and the Sheen. On the left-hand side, it's seen sounds like in sin. Seen sounds like in sin. On the right side, it's Sheen sounds like in shine. Sheen sounds like in shine. And then we have the tough. It connects with a little foot, and sometimes without the dot. So we have tough sounds like t in, what did we say? Toy? Tough sounds like t in toy. Now, so I want you to notice a couple of things. So we have three letters that go below the line. You've got the kaf goes below the line, you got the nun goes below the line, and you got the final pay. The final kaf, final nun, and final pay go below the line. Okay? We also have the final Sadi. Those four letters are letters that only appear at the end of a word. And when they appear at the end of the word, they'll go below the line. Everybody good? We also have 5 letters. Wait, 6 letters that have dots in them. You have the Beit, you have the Gimel, you have the Doid, you have the Kaf. They all can have dots. You have the Pei, and you have the Taf. Those are the letters that can have dots in them. We call these, we're going to put vowels to these consonants, and we call them the Beadkat letters. Okay? Because that's what these letters are, right? B, G, D, K, P. Although here we're going to use the soft, T. So we put vowels to it. This is what the Jewish people oftentimes do to memorize things. Like the word talis is not a word. It's a number. Remember what we said. The letters in the Hebrew alphabet are also numbers. So the word talis is not a word. It's actually a number. But we can pronounce it if we put a vowel sound to it. So we take the consonants that make up the number 613. We get those letters. We make vowel sounds to it, talit, and now we can pronounce 613. We pronounce it because the talis is a garment, right? So it's a thing. But it's not a word. It's a made-up word because there are 613 knots on the ends of the strands, right? I've mentioned this many times. And the number 613 is what the letters that make up talis, I'm not exactly sure. I could probably figure it out, but not exactly sure. That's why I'm not writing it down. But that's what the word talis is. It's a number. We just put vowels to it. Similarly, this is not a word. These are just letters that have dots. So if you want to memorize, what are the letters that have dots? They are the what letters? The Beadkat letters. B, Gad, K, Fat. B, Beit, G, Gimel, Begad, D, Doid, Begad, Fat. The Pei, Fat. Begad, Fat. What's the other one? The Kaf and the Vav, the Pei without the dot, and then the Tuf. It's meant to help as a mnemonic device. Everybody follow? Okay? So you see this oftentimes in grammars. You know, they're going to tell you, right? When you first learn the letters, there are some that are going to appear with a dot. So you look and say, why is the dot there? It's because they're one of the Begadkat letters, and therefore they take a dot. There are different reasons for dots. Sometimes it means the letter is doubled. Sometimes it means the letter is hardened. Sometimes it's part of the definite article. we'll get into all that. You'll see it, and it'll become second nature to you. But for now, we're just saying, if I was to say, okay, what are the 6 letters? You would write them down. You would think in your mind. You don't have to think of, do I have to run through the alphabet? No, you just say Begad Gefat, and remember the sounds you're making. B, G, D, F, K, F, T. And that's what you have. That's how it oftentimes works. And then you notice that the those letters, like the Beit and the Cff and some of these others, can have different forms depending on if they're the end of a word or at the middle of a word. The Mem, for example, at the end of a word doesn't go below the line, but it closes. And I think that's the only one that does that at the end of a word. Everybody good? Okay, so we have 2 minutes. Let's call it there. Next week, we're going to look at the vowels. On page 38 on the handouts, the last page I gave you. Okay. That's why I made some that were without, but for some reason I'm not seeing them here. Oh, here. If you don't have page, who doesn't have page 38? That's because last week you got all the pages but that one, right? Okay, who else doesn't have 38? And then Katie, John.
Page 38.
Okay, who else needs page 38? No, just 38. Okay? Okay, I'll mention that. Okay, everybody's got page 38? Good. Now, just before we close out, let me remind you the sheet was going around, name, phone number, email. They weren't written clearly, so Lily had a tough time typing it all up for me. So if you would be so kind, make sure it's very legible so that we have it. I want to write you. I'm going to send you stuff, and so that you can work on this during the week, and also to remind you when we have the class and everything, so that you're, depending on your schedule. Now look at the bottom of page 38. I just want to introduce you to this, but we'll take it up more next week. These are your vowel pointings that the Masoretes created so that you could learn how to pronounce Hebrew. Before, the Masoretes lived around 600 years after the time of Messiah. So that's around the Islamic conquest. These Masoretes, had they not done this, the only way you could learn Hebrew is by moving into a Jewish community and just hearing it over and over and over again and memorizing it. So the Masoretes, these were Jewish scribes, did us a great favor. They studied the text. They saw that there were certain letters. What is that, Walter? Oh, it's something else? Okay, sorry. So what the Masoretes did was they, number one, studied the consonantal text very thoroughly to see what vowel sounds were made when certain consonants appeared in certain places in the word, and they were able to systematize that in order to give us a consistent usage of these vowels so that over time you could actually look at the words without the vowels and you'll know what vowel probably belongs there. And that was due to their expertise. The other thing they did was to create vowel pointings to add to the consonants. So if you look on the bottom of page 38, I just want to introduce to you very quickly so you can kind of look at this over the week while you're doing the letters, the consonants, how the vowels work. So if you look on the left, don't worry about it being short, long, or otherwise. I just want you to know the sounds. So if you look, for example, on the top left, you have the letter Beit, and you have this vowel sound underneath it. It's a horizontal line. The vowel is called the patach. And it gives you the ah sound that you would say when you learn the name of the vowel. Patach. So it's always an ah sound. When you look at the vowel underneath it, they're giving it to you in this venue. You'll see the letter bait, and now you've got 3 dots like bowling pins. That is the segol. And segol. So the vowel is the sound. So here you're pronouncing it like ah. Here you're pronouncing it like Okay? Everybody with me? Now if you go down below that, you'll see a bet, and it has a singular dot. That's the hirek. Again, you have the vowel. It is the I sound, like a short I sound. I put this here because that means instead of a long vowel, E, sometimes I is pronounced E. For example, when we transliterate, although in a very short while you won't need the transliteration, when we have the Hebrew name for God, we pronounce that Elohim. We don't pronounce it Elohim. It's Elohim because that's a long vowel. But the single dot is a I vowel. It's a short vowel. So you have, he's showing you I. Then when you come down, you've got the bait with a T. That's the kamatz. And we're not going to do what he has here. He has like an O or something. It's an ah sound, just like you have with the patah. It's ah. There's one word where it sounds differently, which makes no sense focusing attention on. Right? It's one exception. But it's the ah sound. And then he has, to finalize this section of the chart, he's got 3 dots on the side, and it is an oo vowel, so you're pronouncing it as boo. Okay? Now we're going to go through all of this, and we'll talk more about the names of all the vowels, the sounds, but this is a start. Okay? What I want you to see is these vowels all go underneath the letters, and they provide us with the vowel sound that we otherwise would not have. So on the bottom of page 38, all you have to focus on is the left side for now. And if you would go over the consonants, if you can get to the point where you're, bikiding, then your reading is going to come very quickly. Because remember, it's not important that you know the names of the letters, right, for what we're doing. I mean, it's important to know the letters. But what's important for what we're doing is to know the sound that accompanies the shape that the consonant takes so that you can just read through it. And that's our goal, is to be able to read. Once we're able to read, now we can start playing around with the grammar. And before you know it, you can open up a Hebrew Bible, start reading it. With very little vocabulary, you'll start even seeing words that you understand, and then with some basic grammar, you'll actually be able to understand exactly what's being said. It's really that way. Now, it can get more complicated as you go on, but at the front end, it becomes like a puzzle. It's sort of just get this stuff. Once we get this stuff, we work with easy things, and then down the road, it gets a little more challenging. But what that means is it's just more of a puzzle. You're figuring out what the different dots and arrangement of letters means to convey grammatically. But this is really great, and you guys sound terrific, and I'm really pleased. So thank you guys for your efforts and for coming. If you miss, that's where it gets ugly. Because then it's like, what? What was that? And then it slows everybody, So we'll have to see how we work with that. But try to come on a weekly basis. We may on a given week, I may say, look, we're not going to meet next week, so just practice. And then we'll come the next week. I don't want to tire you guys out and frustrate you. So, Katie. Okay, Kate, if you could just speak up a little bit. I just can't hear it. Just very quickly. Which one? We're looking at the tough. The last letter in the alphabet? Oh, you're talking about the tet? Yeah, because I don't know. I just don't like trying to make, it's like, it's kind of crazy. I don't know. So I just make it like that, But when you see it, it's not going to look like that. That's just for us. Okay? We good? Thank you. All right. Blessings on you guys.
If you enjoyed this class, please share it with your friends. We update these classes weekly, so make sure to subscribe. If you like what you see and you want to help us spread the good news of Yeshua to the greater Los Angeles area, please go to bethariel.org/give. Thank you for watching. See you next week, and shalom.